Uhuru comrades, Uhuru supporters, Uhuru to the anti-colonial struggle. Uhuru is a Swahili word for freedom, and we use that word to signify and to tell people what exactly we are about. We are the Uhuru movement, and we are here with the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa Fightback Coalition. On today, we are very excited for a program that will help everyone understand, as we have been saying, since you just saw that video, the last days, on December 16th of last year, the sentencing of the Uhuru Three, where we heard not one day, but we are still fighting back against this bogus conviction of conspiracy. And so we say it's not over. And today we talk about the Uhuru Three, appeal, which continues to fight for free speech precedent. And today we are going to be featuring some really dynamic guests, and we're really excited about today's program. So I just want to introduce myself as Mwezi Odom. I have the great honor of serving as the chair of the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa defense campaign, or the counteroffensive, as we say. And I want to salute my leadership, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, founder of the Uhuru movement and leader of the African People's Socialist Party, who is leading the global anti-colonial struggle, as well as Deputy Chair Onezine Yeshitela and the entire Central Committee of the African People's Socialist Party. So on behalf of our committee and our movement, I want to appreciate those who have been with us since day one, and those of you who are new, who are coming on to this fight back. And we look forward to, continuing to struggle with you and to continue to unleash the anti-colonial fight back around the world. So as you can see on the screen with me is my co-MC, my comrade, and one of the Uhuru Threes of the Solidarity Front of the Uhuru Movement, Chairwoman Penny Hess. So Uhuru comrade.
Chairman Wazy, it is so exciting to be here today. I am just very happy to see all the comrades and friends that stood with the Uhuru movement, that stood on the side of Chairman Omali Yeshitela against this brutal attack by the U.S. government, and the victory that Hands Off Uhuru and the Uhuru movement has been able to win with the support of the people. I want to also salute my leadership, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, Deputy Chair Onezine Yeshitela, and the African People's Socialist Party. I am Penny Hess, one of the Uhuru Three, along with Chairman Omali Yeshitela and Comrade Jesse Neville, who is the chair of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement. And APSC, the African People's Solidarity Committee, is the organization of white people formed by Chairman Omali Yeshitela in 1976, sending white people behind enemy lines into the white community to organize for genuine solidarity with African liberation and reparations to African people. So Uhuru, welcome everybody here.
Yes, thank you so much, Comrade, for that introduction. I'm looking forward to co-chairing today's meeting with you. And just as we pull up our slideshow, we just want to remind people who are just tuning in now as the room is filling up. You can also follow and share this this event live. We are live on Facebook, we are live on YouTube, and then those of you who are here with us on Zoom. Today we're going to be talking about meeting and hearing from the Uhuru Three legal team, who is going to lay out the current deepening crisis of imperialism, as well as the main issues on the recent Uhuru Three appeal, which was filed in June of this year. This appeal, as you will learn today, is facing opposition from the highest levels of the Department of Justice. And the Uhuru Three legal team is currently preparing oral arguments for this appeal, which could set precedents, legal precedents in the fight to guarantee the exercise of the First Amendment rights for all. So today we will also feature a very dear comrade and the vice chair of the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations, Comrade Lisa Davis, who was also a Hands Off Uhuru member and who was also fighting bogus charges for standing up against US-backed attacks on Palestinian people. As well, we will hear also from a report from the Latin America front of the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition. So just wanted to give you all a reminder of why you're here on today. And just wanted to once again salute the Hands Off Uhuru campaign, which was launched on July 29, 2022, when the FBI, as the chairman says, dropped a big rock on their foot when they thought that they could mess with the Uhuru movement and, get away with it. So this fight back is, 3 years in the making, and we will continue to fight until it's won. So again, today's webinar, we will be talking about the Uhuru 3 appeal, fighting for the free speech precedent. Again, I just want to, remind everybody who the main target was, of these raids and continues to be, that is Chairman Omali Yeshitela. So we want to salute the chairman. We want to salute Deputy Chair Onozune Yeshitela, who is leading the economic, development on the ground in the heart of the most impoverished Black community in north side of St. Louis, Missouri. This work is, one of the reasons why we were also attacked, because as we say, it is what we say, but it's also what we do. And the Uhuru movement has been building, economic development for the Black community for decades. I also want to salute two of our dear comrades, Penny Hess, who is the chair of the African People's Solidarity Committee, and Jesse Neville, who you will also be hearing from today, who is the chair of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, who also make up the Uhuru 3. So as we remind everybody, the case of the Uhuru 3, as we had said, did open the door for all the attacks that, that we continue to see, the attacks on free speech, the attacks on the right to organize. And, we will continue to talk about how the case of the Uhuru 3 will impact the future of free speech. So the struggle for anti-colonial free speech is one that we can look at in the Uhuru 3 case, because, this is one of the most serious political assaults on the struggle for African liberation since the 1960s. And, as we have said from the beginning, that this was a test case, and that, the, United States government was trying to see, how far they could push it without, without there being a fight back. And because of you, we are here to tell them that they were wrong and that the people will be victorious in this struggle. So the Uhuru movement was raided on July 29, 2022. You can look more about that by going to the Hands Off Uhuru website. Again, these were multi-city raids in St. Petersburg, Florida, and in St. Louis, Missouri. And initially, 4 members of our movement were named as unindicted co-conspirators under this, cover of working for the Russians and conspiracy. So the DOJ, indicted the Uhuru 3 on those charges, which you have seen us talk about over the while. The charge of being foreign agents and the charge of conspiracy, or committing an offense against or to defraud the U.S. government. The Uhuru 3 were acquitted on the foundational charge in September 2024 of being quote unquote Russian agents. And our attorneys filed a motion to dismiss this indictment, and throughout all of this, because we understood that this was a violation of our First Amendment rights. So this the conviction that stood in September 2024 was on conspiracy, and so the Uhuru 3 legal team filed an appeal in June 2025 of this year. And as we had said, and we'll continue to expose this as we go on, but that this appeal, which was filed 2 months ago, is facing opposition again from the highest levels of the Department of Justice. And so, this is the colonial state. So we understand that, this is not just a, bureaucratic thing. This is something that is political, and that they understand that, to, make an example out of the Uhuru 3 is to make an example for everyone who dares to, speak out against this oppressive government. Sorry, let me get back to my slides. Thank you, comrades. So I just want to salute our powerful legal team. There on the right, you see one of our attorneys, Leonard Goodman, who is who was actually taking this case on pro bono. We want to salute him. And we also want to salute some of the legal team who you see here, Addie Griffin, Mutaki Akbar, as well as Comrade Angela Rainey, who is on with us today, who is also working very closely with Comrade Leonard and who helped build this really phenomenal appeal, which you'll hear more about. So again, comrades, we want to say that the fight for free speech and the case of the Uhuru 3 is not over. And, what they also tried to do was to send a message to white people and to others who stand in solidarity with African people that if you fight back, you too will also come under indictment or, a co-conspirator. as well. And so this, strategy to win solidarity amongst, people across the, political spectrum is an important one as we continue to, deepen the question of colonialism, which is what the Uhuru movement is being attacked for because of their, stance on the question of colonialism and negating colonialism. Chairman Penny, I think no, I keep going, Uhuru, but jump in, comrade, if you need. So just a quick more slides here. The, DOJ, as we say, they indict the Uhuru Three, but they don't indict AIPAC and, who are unregistered, Israeli agents. And these are some of the things that they accuse the Uhuru Three of as well. But we were able to, fight this back and win support, broad support from around the world, building this global anti-colonial free speech movement. And we could not have done this without our supporters. So I just want to really give a big salute to everybody from across the globe who has, stood up. These are some, I guess, vintage or older photos from the, early days in the campaign, taking this out. And again, right out the bat, since day one, we had, comrades who were on the ground fighting back against these attacks on the Uhuru Three. So you can see here on the next slide a photo of D12, who held a press conference. Many who came out to this press conference, in Brooklyn, New York, with many other organizations to denounce the attacks on the Uhuru Three. And throughout this process, a year later after the attacks, we launched the Hands Off Uhuru Fightback Coalition, which won endorsements and support from hundreds of organizations, and individuals who united with, dropping the charges against the Uhuru Three, but also building this anti-colonial front. And I just want to say that you are a part of one of the many webinars that we do. We do these to raise resources for the legal expenses that, that is required in this fight back, but also to educate, our people and the masses around, around the nature of, of these attacks, that these are political attacks. This is, something that we have to fight in the legal courts, but we understand that there is a political nature to these attacks on the African People's Socialist Party. So we do have a goal today, and that's actually not correct, that amount. So I apologize for that. There we go. We may have to refresh, but we do have a goal for today, comrades. Our goal today is to raise $1,000 towards the Hands Off Uhuru, legal fund. We want to appreciate many of you who are sustainers and many of you who continue to, send in your monthly donations or your, donations during these webinars. So we want to encourage you anytime throughout today's webinar, if you want to help build this fund, you can go to handsoffuhuru.org/donate. Uhuru. So we just want to say that, yes. Oh, was that you, Penny?
Uhuru, I was just saluting your PowerPoint. That was very powerful.
Uhuru. Great, comrade. And just to say, we're going to, Chairman Penny and I are going to kind of tackle some of these next slides, but we are looking at, as the chairman has described and, helped us to understand the crisis of imperialism. It has always been in crisis, essentially, because the people have always been fighting back. And we see it now. And even those who may not have understood it can feel it during this, current period, whether it's tariffs, the crisis in, in trade. This is a decline of, as it says, U.S. imperialism and its desperate grip on the resources, of the people and its fight to maintain power, of the, within the colonial mode of production. We're also seeing the rise of anti-colonial struggles worldwide, fighting against the colonial mode of production. And we see, and we must continue to talk about, the struggle of Palestinians who are fighting for their stolen land, who are fighting, tooth and nail, who are experiencing genocide under the settler colonial state of Israel and its allies, the U.S. included. Uhuru, Chairwoman. Yeah.
Oh, yes, thank you so much. And I do think that it's really, really important that we talk about what the chairman calls the crisis of imperialism and this fact that the system we live in, he calls it the colonial mode of production, that there is no redeeming qualities to the system we live in. And that when we look at the crisis in the world today, we have to come back to the fact that this system is built on slavery, on genocide, on colonialism, on the oppression and theft of resources of the majority of the people on the planet Earth for the benefit of a few. And this is what is the question. And as the chairman always says, it is the anti-colonial struggle. It is the struggle of African, indigenous, Palestinian, and oppressed peoples around the world that is the key driving force of the system we live in today. And we just wanted to say a little bit, we're talking about this, day after day, you see this deepening stand of attack on the Palestinian people by the US-backed Israeli government, which the US gives the greatest amount of resources to of any other country in the world today. And the reality of absolute genocide being carried out against the Palestinian people on their land, but the ongoing fight for their freedom and liberation is inspiring to see. Next slide. We've seen these political assassinations, this chaos that we see the shooter of Kirk, running on the roof and these things that are in the news today. Next slide. We see these Epstein files, which we're going to talk about in a minute, which expose Trump as a predator and reveal the true nature of parasitic capitalism, the parasitic ruling class, which sucks the blood of the people on the planet Earth and has no moral standards other than to continue to rob the world of freedom and liberation and to attack the peoples on the planet Earth. Next slide. We see US and NATO wars abounding against the people of Ukraine. We've seen attacks on Poland, Qatar, Iran, and other places in the world that are struggling to be free, to be able to feed their people, to be able to continue to have self-determination and freedom. Next slide. And we can see that the worldwide, the vast majority of the peoples on the planet Earth and other states have expressed their absolute support for the Palestinian people, not for the US. Very, very, very tiny. I mean, even Britain and France now have had to take a stand in support of the Palestinian people. Next slide. We've seen this, as we talked about in other webinars, and we salute our comrades Unión del Barrio out in California, fighting these ICE crackdowns and the people's resistance, which is very, very powerful. This is an arm of the US state, a very vicious arm that is taking indigenous people whose land this is and putting them in prison. One of the prisons that they're putting hundreds, if not more, indigenous people into is the notorious Angola prison work farm in Louisiana, which is one of the most vicious prisons in the entire United States. That was built in the period of convict leasing, when African people were forced into labor that they say was worse than slavery. This is the Angola work farm. This is where indigenous people are being put in. Next slide. And Trump is said to be ready to invade Chicago, St. Louis, Memphis, and they are building cop cities here in St. Louis and other places around this country. And we know that we have supported the struggle against cop cities in Atlanta and other places. Well, they're coming here, and we're going to be taking on that struggle in the next few months here. We want to say happy birthday and victory to Leonard Peltier, who was released through the struggle of the people and the courageous leadership of the Leonard Peltier Ad Hoc Committee, which have been just powerful comrades and members of the Hands Off Uhuru Fightback Coalition. We also want to say justice for Imam Jamil Amin, who is having health difficulties, and people can go to their website, or maybe we can put his website in our chat so people could go there to learn how they can support them. Next slide. We are, as always, saying free Mumia Abu Jamal now, and free all political prisoners. Next slide. The way we said we are calling for, this has the wrong amount, we're calling for $1,000 today. The way to contribute or go to handsoffuhuru.org/donate, pledge your amount in the chat, and announce how much you have pledged. As always, we want to salute our comrades and members of Hands Off Uhuru, the Bethesda African Cemetery Coalition, Stop the Erasure of the Moses African Cemetery, and go to their website and find out how you can support this powerful work. And we want to salute the recent Days of Reparations to African people, led by the Uhuru Solidarity Movement here in St. Louis, under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party, white solidarity with Black power. This was us just a few days ago out in the park. It was very, very exciting. We got a lot of salutes and honks of support from the community in the streets. And we support the Reparations Legacy Project. We're going to be talking about that more. Building solidarity, material solidarity, with the incredible work of the Black Power Blueprint under the leadership of Deputy Chair Onizine Yeshitela. Next slide. This is just some of the projects of the Black Power Blueprint that have been put on the ground, but there's much, much more. It's an incredible program for political and economic power in the hands of the African working class, including a basketball court, beautiful community garden, beautiful murals, workforce program, housing for African people coming out of this colonial prison system, and the soon to open Uhuru Jiko, the Uhuru Bakery Cafe, right here right in North St. Louis, which is so beautiful. And we'll be hearing more about that in the next few months as well. Next slide. Yes, here's the picture of the Uhuru Bakery Cafe. Very excited for that to be able to be open. And again, saluting to our chairman, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, put the colonial state on trial, Uhuru. So that's the end of that PowerPoint.
Uhuru, thank you so much, Comrade Chairwoman Penny Hess, and just wanted to salute all the work that's being done. If we think back on 3 years since the attacks, but we did not skip a beat. Although, we understand that, when we talk about the economic and the political attack, it does speak to how much, the African working class and colonized, people have to struggle in order to, build a life that is, that allows us to have the ability to, as we say, just be able to feed, clothe, and house ourselves. And that's what the Uhuru movement is about. And that's why, this struggle, but all the struggles that we talked about in these opening slides are important, and that we will continue to talk about how we are adopting and, getting behind a lot of these really important fronts of the anti-colonial struggle. So we're going to continue on in our program, and I'm going to introduce our next section. And I just want to thank our chat moderators who are, dropping information in the chat, and you'll continue to see some more information about certain events and, struggles in the chat as well. So just salute to those on the back end. So I'm gonna turn it actually back over to Comrade Chairwoman Penny Hess, who kind of gave us a little hint that we're going to be, talking about why the Epstein case is something that we should be talking about. As it relates to, the attacks on African, people. So I won't go into it too far, but I'll turn it to you, Comrade, and Uhuru. Yes, go ahead.
Uhuru, thank you so much, Chairman Wazy. And I did want to say that Chairman Omali Yeshitela was, raising that we need to expose these Epstein files and Donald Trump's relationship to this case, the situation, and many, many others of the ruling class, possibly thousands or hundreds of others from the US ruling class, were part of this. And it's really important that we expose this because, again, this is a system that has no redeeming qualities. It has one purpose: to make a profit for a few at the expense of the majority of the people on the planet Earth. And that it is built on colonialism. It is built on rape and plunder and just the degradation of other human beings for the benefit of this white power system and this colonial reality. So I just want to read this statement, and it's something that you can put your comments in the chat there, and this will be up on the website of Hands Off Uhuru if it isn't already. It says, U.S. government's release of Epstein files, Myers Trump in crisis. Currently, at the center of the ever-deepening crisis for this parasitic social system is the exposure of the relationship of sitting U.S. President Donald Trump with the late notorious pedophile, convicted child sex trafficker, and financial fraudster Jeffrey Epstein. The Epstein story currently dominates the internet and news media with podcasts, stories in the New York Times even, and radio shows, etc. In early September, a U.S. congressional panel began releasing a trove of documents known as the Epstein files. The late convicted pedophile's will and his notorious personal address book are included in the files, quote, with contacts that include royalty, politicians across the globe, celebrities, and models. Ehud Barak and Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel, along with the former President William Jefferson Clinton, among many, many, many others, are named in Epstein's Black Book, with multiple phone numbers listed for each. The ruling class pedophile ring is documented to have involved at least 1,000 children and young adults. Among the congressional release is a 238-page, quote, birthday book. People might have seen this. This was released, this doodle or whatever it was called, this drawing by Donald Trump, that signed by hundreds of members of the ruling elite, saluting Epstein for his 50th birthday, a book full of lewd, sexually explicit drawings and messages. The message from Trump is a signed sketch of a woman's naked torso with a script, I think that was published in the New York Times, of a conversation between Trump and Epstein in which Trump salutes their secret and all special things they have in common. The New York Times also ran a lengthy feature story on the role played by the J.P. Morgan Chase Bank, the largest U.S. bank in the U.S., which not only enabled Epstein's sex trafficking operation, but also enriched him while reaping profits for the bank. So the bank made a lot of money off of everything that he did. Even Trump's MAGA base is in an uproar over his involvement in the Epstein scandal as the previously unwavering Trump support base erodes daily. Trump is quoted as calling Epstein a very close friend and a terrific guy. Overall, the files expose a wide-ranging scandal that extends to the highest echelons of the white ruling class inside the US and around the world as this massive international child pedophile ring is exposed that includes former presidents, CEOs, and high society mavens. This is the life of the hideous colonial ruling class, the same illegitimate colonial masters that force millions of African people into prisons every day, gun down African people in the streets, make their babies die as infants, and impose a life of poverty and powerlessness on the masses through the illegitimate colonial state. This is the meaning of what the chairman has termed the colonial mode of production, where a foreign and alien state power gains economic and political control over the life and resources of African people through violence and through the violence of the state. Jeffrey Epstein, who died by alleged suicide in the Metropolitan Corrections Center in Manhattan, New York, which is filled with African people, of course, in August 2019, was described as a, quote, mysterious billionaire with rumored connections to everything from Wall Street to the CIA to the State of Israel and the Israeli Mossad. A native of Brooklyn, New York, Epstein started his career with a brief stint as a teacher at a prestigious private school. Even though he had no college degree, he landed a job with the leading Wall Street firm at that time, Bear Stearns, before starting his own investment firm in 1982 when he was in his 30s. Epstein exclusively took on clients worth more than $1 billion. And at the time of his death, he was worth $600 million. And no one knows where he got his startup money. By the 1990s, Epstein had managed to accumulate estates, apartments in several countries, according to court documents, even a private island in the Caribbean. Epstein hosted some of the wealthiest, most powerful people, including British Prince Andrew and Bill Gates. All of Epstein's properties were outfitted with elaborate systems of cameras and recording equipment to gather material for blackmail against all the countless men who participated in the assaults on the children. Details of Epstein's alleged secret life first emerged in 2005 when several underage girls accused him of offering to pay them for massages and sex acts at his Palm Beach mansion. So while African people colonized in this country are forced to languish in US prisons by the hundreds of thousands, even millions, Epstein avoided federal charges in his 2005 case through a state level non-prosecution agreement to serve 13 months in prison on prostitution charges and to register as a sex offender. The terms of Epstein's sentence were that he only had to spend nights in jail. This has never happened before. Every morning, a huge chauffeur-driven limo drove up to the jail to pick him up, to take him to his Palm Beach mansion, where he was free to spend the day doing anything he wanted, including continuing to sexually abuse children. Epstein's sweetheart deal was brokered by former state Florida Attorney General and now U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi, and overseen by Alexander Acosta, who was the labor secretary in the first Trump administration. Bondi was notorious when she was in Florida for her selective prosecution of African people in Florida, with policies, quote, contributing to racial disparities in the prison system, particularly concerning Black incarceration, according to one report. African people make up 17% of the population of Florida, while constituting nearly 50% of the state's colonial prison population, which is true throughout the US and probably in most states. And we can assume that Bondi and Acosta both played some role in targeting Chairman Yeshitela in Florida for standing up for political and economic power for African workers and against this colonial system. So just to say, I'm just going to put out a few more things here. In 2019, it was reported that Alexander Acosta, reported to members of President Trump's transition team that he was told Jeffrey Epstein belonged to intelligence and that he was supposed to leave it alone because Epstein was above his pay grade. We don't know, we have no way of knowing exactly what he did, what he was, if he was a spy, whatever his role was. But during that same period, while Pam Bondi was stuffing prisons with African people, Bondi was supposedly also seeking to establish herself as a champion against sex trafficking and child sex abuse. So she launched Florida's Council on Human Trafficking and investigation into past abuse by Catholic priests. But Bondi did not support the Epstein victims when they launched their lawsuits challenging the deal in the early 2000s, which saw Epstein plead guilty to soliciting a minor for prosecution and serving only a few months in prison. On his part, Trump has said that he, quote, cut ties with Mr. Epstein years ago after falling out over a real estate deal. So, so there's much more that, that we could talk about, but I just want to say that, that this is why the Uhuru movement, the African People's Socialist Party, is fighting to overturn this vicious colonial mode of production, and why the African People's Socialist Party has the demand for peace, dignity, and the right to build a prosperous life through the labor and interests of the African workers themselves. And why they believe that colonialism is a blood-sucking system which causes all economic development to benefit the colonialist ruling class and society at the expense of colonized peoples. So, we just want to say, Uhuru, that African people are fighting and winning, and that we, again, support all of the, salute all of the profound support from all of you who are out there. This is a victory. Hands off Uhuru won a precedent victory, and we are winning, and it's powerful to be on the winning side. So I just want to say, Uhuru, vanguard up, hands off Uhuru.
Uhuru, thank you for that, Chairwoman Penny. Just, helping to connect the dots, as the chairman has, really led this, struggle in a way that helps us to not see the Uhuru 3 attack, or the attack on, the African liberation struggle, or the struggle for the peoples as, separate or isolated events. These are all part of one, orchestrated, attempt to continue to keep the people under the boot of colonialism. And so we continue to fight back. And I want to thank and just salute and welcome some of the new faces and new names we're seeing here in the room. I want to appreciate those. And I also want to appreciate some of you who've already gone to handsoffuhuru.org to help us get closer and closer to our goal. So I just want to thank a couple of supporters. I want to thank Ali. I want to thank Maureen, Jesse, Becky, and Johan. These are really solid forces, and we're gonna thank you all a little bit closer on, and give the amount of where we are. But please, as a reminder, go to handsoffuhuru.org/donate. Help us reach our goal of preparing to build for the what's to come in this legal fight back. So speaking of fight back, it is my honor now to introduce our next segment. Yes, there she is. I want to salute the vice chair of the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations, Comrade Lisa Davis. Just want to be clear, when we say vice chair of the Black is Back Coalition, that says something, because this is a powerful coalition, and chairman is the chair of the Black is Back coalition. And so when they attack Lisa, they're not just attacking Lisa, they're attacking her and her connection to this other very powerful front in the anti-colonial fight back. So we just have a quick moment to say that, one, the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa campaign and the fight back is adopting the case of Comrade Lisa Davis, and that we will be there to support the comrade throughout everything. And she's going to talk to us about, her case. So I just welcome you, Comrade.
Uhuru.
Yeah.
First of all,
Uhuru.
I just want to say, I want to thank everybody so much. And I want to say that there is no organization, there is no people I'd rather work with, and there's no one that I'd rather work under in terms of their leadership, and I appreciate all the work of the Black is Back Coalition and all the comrades involved in that, and certainly in the Hands Off Uhuru, our coalition as well. But there's no group of people I'd rather be with during these extremely turbulent times than the Uhuru movement, which just provides such necessary skills and political education, and also actions to interpret this world and to help us to make the decisions that we need to make for our liberation. So I have to say that salute to the chairman, Omali Yeshitela, and the leadership of the Uhuru movement and the Black is Back Coalition and all of my comrades. Basically, I just want to start this out by just giving a little bit of background about in terms of the area that I live in, New Jersey, and to just remind people, if they don't know, that New Jersey is one of the most oppressive, I mean, well, all of the states are racist and everything, but it has a horrible reputation in terms of police brutality. And that was the state that gave us the term racial profiling for all of the horrors that they were conducted, you know, in the state. And as Sister Betty and others always remind us, the police act as an army of occupation within our communities. And the case that happened involved myself will really, really show that. But just real briefly, you'll hear me say that I was one of the only Black people in this area, which was predominantly white, but I want people to understand I was not in the boondocks. The areas, you'll hear references to the Oranges and Maplewood and all of that. These areas are all very, very close together. Some are predominantly Black towns, some are predominantly white towns, and they're separated really by just like a line in the ground. But also what separates them is like 400 years of colonialism, because you can clearly see the difference in these towns. You notice immediately when you've left a white town and walked into a Black town, but they're very close together, which means that there's a lot of going back and forth in interactions. And also, just to give a little bit of a backdrop leading up to what happened, when October 7th, 2023 happened, the state of New Jersey, all these towns like the Oranges, like West Orange, South Orange, Maplewood, all of them just took such strong pro-Israel stances. And they were just showing such blatant disrespect to the Palestinian community in that area, the Palestinian community, Muslim community, you know, people from that area, and also just blatant disrespect to the supporters of the Palestinian cause. And one of the things that had happened initially first out, and this is what made me get involved in more in locally what was going on, because normally my focus would always be like with the urban cities, we like very close to Newark. I know whatever goes on in Newark affects Black people all throughout the world. So, or throughout this country, I should say, you know, in New York and stuff like that. But this made me realize I needed to be more connected to what was going on in my local community. And that's when some students in West Orange High School, and they were I think they were maybe the first students, period, that began to protest, but these high schoolers wanted to have a demonstration in support of Palestine. And this was in, I think, late October of 2023. And they were met with such pushback, such hostility, such hostile pushback from the mayor of West Orange, from the school board, and all of this. When I found out about that, I said, oh, I got to be involved. I have to know what's going on locally, and to give a strong message that their support for Palestine in these suburbs, and we're not going to back off, and you're certainly not going to be intimidating the youth and coming after our children, because a lot of the youth that was also leading that on the front line and that were Black students, you know, although there was also a lot of support from different students as well. And so I got involved with that to make sure that that could happen. And I remembered one of the things that happened because we went to the city council meeting in West Orange, New Jersey. And although that area is predominantly white, but the majority of the city council were Black. And I remember this was in like November, and West Orange had taken out a strong statement in support of Israel while showing no concern at all for the Palestinian community. So we went to that meeting to we wanted to just register our support, and I wanted to show that there was support for the Palestinian cause in this community. And they wouldn't even let us talk. They pulled some maneuver that we came at, we came, you know, at a certain time. They wouldn't even let us talk. And so this is the kind of hostility and stuff that was brewing in that community. So in people in South Orange began to organize, and they wanted to have a weekly vigil. And they began to do that. That started happening in like November of 2023. And I was going to those vigils to show support. So they had been having these weekly vigils in this very hostile climate. And so in March of 2024, March 31st, 2024, you know, we're out there. They had these weekly videos. I would just come and support because I was very glad to see them doing that. And so this was the vigils were being called from like 3 o'clock to 4:30. And so I never led any of the chants or anything like that. I didn't organize anything like this. I was just there to support. And at the end of the vigils, they would let us make announcements. So it was at the end of the vigil, and I was about to make an announcement when I heard this commotion going on. And if that video is ready, I would like to show that video now. If we could show that. And the reason that people's faces are blocked, I want to say that the guy who started all of this, he was never one of the ones that accused me of anything. From what I could see, I didn't see his name on any of the complaints or anything like that, because my position was that if I did see that, I would be more than willing to release his identity and everything. But there's a lot of youth in who would come to these protests and stuff, and hence is the reason why, you know, most of the people, their faces are blurred because of the retaliation and everything that was going on. But you can play that from.
Where's your government? Just answer the question. Who's the government? Who's the government? Who's leading your country? I don't want your family dead. Who's leading it? A terrorist organization?
Israel's a terrorist organization.
Maybe, but let's just go back to the original.
We are over here minding.
Wait a second. What happened to the
over here
Yankees in
minding
America? Did we get bullets? Oh, that's too far back to address. We can't address why we get bullets from a Republican. I know Democrats giving bullets to the only democratic country in the Middle East. Wait, these surrounding countries, they don't even believe it exists. I'm neither.
We're not having this discussion here. We're not
Look.
having this discussion here. You have to respect our boundaries.
You didn't
Respect
respect
our boundaries.
mine.
Respect our
You're not
boundaries.
respecting mine.
You don't own this world.
You don't either. I was driving by. I became scared driving by.
Well, that's on you.
And your boundaries are on you, man.
That's on you.
Your boundaries are on you.
Get out of my face. Get out of my face.
Am I?
Get out of my
What's your
face.
space? Where's your space, Malone?
Get out of my face.
Watch out! Don't follow
Where's
him.
your space star? I want war. I'm sorry about your dead. And Israel's mine. My wife is terrified I'm gonna go die for it. I don't give a fuck this country thinks.
All these organizations.
Okay, so we can like just turn it off
Thank you. Thank you. And that is basically what happened. And I had a video. I had been recording everything, and I let the police know that I had this recording, and this is where I have to take accountability for this in terms of an error I made. You know, but anyway, one of the officers said, "Oh, I would just like to see the link to that video. Could you send it to me?" And because it was on my public Facebook page, I did. But the next thing I know, that a couple of days later, I'm getting these complaints where they are putting it all on me. They charged me with holding a protest without a permit, and also with using a megaphone. Which none of these things were true. I didn't do any of those things. So this had been going on for a whole year. And very recently, recently, August 15th, it was that the judge ruled completely in favor of those beast officers and of the state, because it's the state of New Jersey versus Lisa Davis. They had the whole state behind them, and they ruled in favor of them. And one of the rulings that he made, because I had people testifying that I did not organize this. They were witnesses. I had an Uber receipt showing, the officer said they saw me there at the beginning of the march at 3 o'clock. I had an Uber receipt showing I didn't get there till 3:45. So I had all of these things, but the judge basically just flipped reality on it, just turned it on, upside down on its side. And one of the rulings that the judge said is, well, since you all can't say who was one of the organizers, because the group that was organizing, they were a loose collective of people in the community that would just come together and put these things together. And they have been doing that since, November. And so the judge said, well, since you can't tell us who's organizing, everybody is responsible for this. And he's going to sit up there and say that that this wasn't racist, because I am the only one they came after. I'm the only one that is fined. And one of the things about that area very quickly is that when I go into those courts, although South Orange and Maplewood are predominantly white. The people, the defendants in there are predominantly Black. They've been dragged into that court like 4 or 5 times since this happened. And all the time, that is the thing. But you saw that is what happened, and yet they came after me. So.
Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Comrade Vice Chair Lisa Davis, I just want to appreciate you, explaining about the nature of the bogus case, case up against you, as well as kind of giving an attack of like where this happened, and to remind people that you were there, in a protest supporting the struggle of Palestinian people.
Yes.
And I just want to ask you one last question before we wrap up, because we are going to move, but we are going to continue to bring this forward. But can you just tell the people, quickly what they can do to support you? Is there a place online where they can go to find out more?
Well, I would say we are working on that now because we had to put in the notification of the appeal, and we're just getting the transcripts. But we have been organizing in that community. I've been getting support, and we're not stopping.
Right.
And so we're going after the judge in terms of not just legally, but what can also be done politically. So I will definitely let people know, keep people abreast. You'll be
Yeah.
hearing a lot more things from me, and a lot more about this. And thank you so much. And I just want to also say one thing. This happened against the backdrop, that guy, they had that the guy was having mental health issues and all of that stuff. And he gets to walk away without being beat up and alive. But 2 people since that happened were murdered by the police, gunned down over mental health issues in New Jersey. So I just want to make sure.
Thank you, Comrade. And I think that's, important that all this is happening under the context of colonialism. So none of these laws or, charges that they put against us are legitimate. As the chairman says, colonialism is illegitimate. And I just want to really appreciate you, Comrade, and we stand behind you 100%, and we will beat this case. So yes, so Uhuru, and just please, anything that you can add in the chat, please do, Comrade. So comrades, we want to thank everybody for being on, and just one more, shout out and salute to Comrade Sister Lisa Davis, who is such a, unrelenting supporter in the Hands Off Uhuru fight back for the, for the Uhuru 3. So we really can't thank that comrade enough. So Uhuru, so I'm going to turn it back over to St. Louis on the ground in the Solidarity Center, one of the sites of the FBI raids in 2022. And there we have comrades, Chairwoman Penny Hess. Next to her is Comrade Chair Jesse Neville. And we are going to be talking with one of our attorneys, Attorney Angela Rainey. So I'll turn it to you, comrades. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Just really want to salute Lisa Davis, Vice Chair of Black is Back. And this has been a powerful event so far. And I'm going to turn it over to Comrade Jesse Neville. Uhuru.
Uhuru, Chairwoman Penny, Uhuru, Chair Mwezi, and to all of our supporters and members of the Hands Off Uhuru Coalition. As always, it's an honor to be on this event by the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa, anti-colonial free speech movement. I want to salute our leadership, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, my leadership and the African people, under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party, Chairman and also Deputy Chair Ona Zane Yeshitela, and everybody who's tuning in. I just want to salute Black is Back Coalition Vice Chair Lisa Davis, express my solidarity with the struggle to defeat this bogus colonial attack being made against Comrade Lisa Davis, and say that anti-colonial free speech. We must fight for this. We must build this movement. And I'm excited to be joined tonight once again by our amazing attorney and comrade, Angela Rainey. And we've gotten the privilege to hear from Attorney Angela quite a few times on these webinars. She's been a staple of the Hands Off Uhuru webinars to help all of us understand more deeply the significance of the legal arguments involved in the ongoing fight to defeat the attack on the Uhuru movement, the attack on African people that the US government waged under the Biden administration, and which the Department of Justice is continuing under the Trump administration. And we're very excited to have Angela on with us to talk more about the appeal, some aspects that we've covered before and some that we haven't. And I just want to start off by saying that the appeal is so important because it's bigger than just this case. The appeal has the potential to actually change how the government is permitted, according to their rules, to use these particular laws as weapons against African and colonized people. It is part of a larger campaign, which I'll be talking about a little bit later, that the Hands Off Uhuru campaign is waging to actually get these laws into the dustbin of history, to repeal, to demand that the US government repeal the Foreign Agent Registration Act and its variations, and these conspiracy laws, which are nothing but thought crimes. So the Uhuru 3 case is such a perfect example of this. It's the tip of the spear, as has been said before. And I'm excited to have on attorney Angela Rainey to help us understand that even more. Uhuru.
Uhuru, Jesse. Thank you.
Great to have you on, Angela.
Thank you.
So I wanted to start with something you've spoken of. Well, actually, before I get to that, we heard about this earlier. This is an important update. You actually were the first to let us know about this. So I'm hoping you can talk to us a little bit about this. There was some news recently with regards to how the federal government is approaching the appeal. Could you tell us a little bit about what we learned and what the significance of that is?
Sure, yes. So we recently learned that there has been a new attorney from DC, from the Department of Justice, that's entered an appearance on the appeal. And I'm totally shocked by that in this case, but it's definitely different. Normally, if I have a drug case or a gun case, something like that, then a prosecutor from the local office would actually handle the case on appeal. And so it definitely is unusual that they put a Department of Justice attorney in here to do the appeal. And what that reflects to me is they know that this is an important case, and they don't want to lose this case. I think what you were saying is correct. They want to see this as just another tool in their toolbox of ways to silence people. So I do, I think it's not totally surprising. We knew that they were very concerned about this case. So we do see that going on, and they asked for another 45 days, and that's really standard as well. So I wasn't surprised by that.
Thank you, Angela. And yeah, the appellate attorney that you let us know about that the Department of Justice assigned to the case is a guy named Joseph Minta, and he's from the National Security Division of the Department of Justice. And I think, as you said, Angela, it's evident of something that the chairman has certainly pointed out all along, and that became clearer and clearer to us as we went through the different legal stages of this trial, that this was a political case. It was a political attack. It ultimately didn't really have anything to do with the quote unquote law. The law was being used as an instrument through which to wage a political attack. And it was a political attack clearly being orchestrated from the highest levels of the US government. And that remains to be the case now, as you just said. So thank you for shedding some light on that. And when we talk about...
I'm sorry,
yes,
I think it's particularly important because we did recently hear the president talk about taking actions against left-wing organizations. So they're going to use different things like this because this is free speech. So they have to find another hook to get a criminal conviction. So I would foresee that this is one of those cases.
Right, exactly. Thank you, Angela. And in terms of the appeal, I have two main questions for you on that. One is to reiterate for us the significance of the Uhuru 3 appeal, which, by the way, I just want to congratulate and salute you as one of the co-authors, as well as Leonard Goodman and our other attorneys, Mutaki Akbar and Addie Griffin, for the work on this incredible appeal, where we really strongly encourage everybody to read it. You can read it at handsoffufuru.org. And the appeal has 5 main arguments. The first one, and the one that is probably discussed the most for obvious reasons, is the First Amendment. It has to do with the First Amendment, and basically expands upon the arguments that were laid out in the original motion for dismissal that was filed before we even went to trial, which argued that according to their laws, the indictment was itself illegal because it violated the First Amendment to the US Constitution and the supposed constitutional protection of freedom of speech. So they dismissed the motion for dismissal. They allowed it to proceed to trial, obviously. So now that decision to even allow the trial to happen in the first place is being challenged through this appeal. What would it mean to win this? What would that mean, not just for the Uhuru Three, but for anyone that comes under attack for political speech?
Yeah, so it does have the potential to have a huge impact way beyond the Uhuru Three. Of course, for the Uhuru Three, you know, your conviction's reversed, but it can have a very broad and long-lasting impact if we win on this issue. So we're in the 11th Circuit. That circuit controls the precedent in Florida and Georgia and Alabama. If they come out and say that this is First Amendment protected speech, if you know, then that would control that precedent there. And it's larger than that as well. Other courts across the country will look to that and cite to that case to say that, you know, this prosecution is illegal, and this is what the 11th Circuit said. This is protected free speech. So we definitely want to get that, not just for the Uhuru Three, but for any group that is advocating for, you know, unpopular issues in the country that, you know, the leadership isn't in favor of. So they're going to use these tools. We want to make sure that everybody can go speak their mind, even if they've visited another country and associated with other people there, that we want to make sure they feel comfortable doing that.
True. Thank you. And it's so exciting to envision that. I'm very confident that we're going to win because, as the chairman says, when we fight, we win. And that's been the case every step of the way. And I can't wait for the day that the government attempts to come after somebody else like this and fails because they get to hold up and cite the victory of our appeal as a defense, as a shield against this kind of colonial state repression. So that's going to be really powerful. And just salute to the chairman and to the Hands Off Uhuru movement, and to you all, our attorneys, our amazing attorneys, for waging this incredibly important battle. So this brings me to the next question I'm excited to talk to you about and hear you speak to, Angela. And that's the argument in the appeal. There's 5 arguments, but I would say this is also one of the most important ones in there, which is insufficiency of evidence, which is tied to the fact that, you know, the jury came back with a guilty verdict on conspiracy to commit the so-called crime that they said that the chairman and the Uhuru Three were not guilty of committing, which was to act as Russian agents without notifying the Attorney General's office. So the appeal lays out extensively why and how the US government failed to provide any evidence that the chairman or the Uhuru Three had ever done anything even remotely approximating working under the direction or control of a Russian or of anyone. And the thing that I loved about the way that our legal team put that appeal together is that you showed, and this is what I'm excited to hear you speak about, you showed that not only did they not provide evidence, the cross-examination forced them to provide counter evidence. They made our case for us. The FBI agents convinced the jury that the chairman was not working for anybody but the liberation of African people. So can you talk about that argument in the appeal and how you went about proving that through quoting the words of the FBI agents themselves who took the stand during that week-long trial back in last September?
Yes, so it turned out that the FBI agents were actually some of our best witnesses. So so I did want to quote some of their quotes, some of the things that we had in the appeal. I can say I've never had a case where I was actually able to cite to the FBI agents' testimony to prove that the government hadn't proven their case. So the charge that we are appealing is the conspiracy, what we were convicted of, and you know, the government's required to prove each of those elements beyond a reasonable doubt. So in our appeal, we're saying the government didn't do that. You know, one of the elements they have to prove is that the agency part of the statute, that is, they had to prove that the Uhuru Three were working at the direction and control of Russia. So in a conspiracy, that would be the thought crime of, you know, thinking about working with Russia for a Russian agent. So we have some great testimony. One of my favorite ones is Agent Bowen, she agreed that the chairman, he doesn't appear to be someone that's for sale. I think all of us are pretty confident about that. If you've ever heard Chairman Omali Yeshitela speak, that he's not for sale. I probably can't get him to do things, as his attorney. We know that. He's going to speak his mind. Agent Myers, another agent, she agreed that this was a cooperation program, that the Uhuru Three were not working at the direction. She didn't use the words direction and control. They were cooperating. They were working just as the African People's Socialist Party works with groups across the world all the time. That's what was going on here. It goes both ways. This is her quote. It goes both ways. It's a cooperation. It's not, I'm telling you what to do. It's we're working together. That certainly doesn't sound like direction and control to me.
Right.
And another thing that we point out is the indictment. It alleged that this Russian man directed Penny to draft a petition. Well, we actually get the FBI agent testimony that says, well, Hess wasn't really directed to write this petition. So, the agent testified directly to this. And that came, they had asked for chairman to come to Russia, and there was a condition about what he had to talk about. And Penny came right back with, no, we don't do that. We don't talk about that issue. She told him, she came back with the beliefs and would not accept that condition. So that is not someone that's working at the control. Agent Bowen, in another part, she concedes that at no time did the African People's Socialist Party agree to take orders or be directed by IANOP. So this is another instance where she's admitting there's no evidence of this. And another thing I wanted to point out too is that, in the indictment, this is very political in the indictment. It talks about how the Uhuru Three are spreading this Russian propaganda. And in this case, their expert was a great source of evidence for our appeal, because on cross, our attorneys got the expert to admit that that's really not Russian propaganda. That's actually a legitimate position that experts in our country have on this issue. So this is not Russian propaganda. And then an agent actually admitted, well, before they even talked to someone in Russia, they've been saying the same thing the whole time.
Right.
This did not come from Russia. They admitted this. And I have to say that the evidence that they introduced against the Uhuru Three also helped us with our appeal.
Yes.
We have a quote from the chairman saying directly to this person in Russia, we're not your employee. We did this as an agreement. This is before the indictment, before any of this happened. You've got the chairman on there setting these people straight, saying, we don't work for you. So another element that the government has to prove is knowledge. So what that means is they have to prove that the Uhuru Three knew they were working for a foreign government. We're also arguing, the government disagrees with this, but we're also arguing you had to know that you were required to register. That seems very basic to me, but the government is contesting that. And then on cross, one of our attorneys asked, so in the 3 years that you investigated this case and the numerous emails that you reviewed, and I'll just say the 20 terabytes of data, but I'll go on with this quote. All these Facebooks, all these communications, did you ever see anything that indicated that any of these defendants knew that they were supposed to register? And the answer is no. The agent says no, there's nothing that shows they knew. And which, makes sense, right? If you're conspiring to work as an agent, working as an agent for another government is actually not illegal. And if you know that you can register this and not commit a crime, what would be the incentive not to register? So none of this really makes sense. But fortunately, the agents and the government gave us plenty to work with on this appeal.
Wow. Thank you so much, Angela. That was brilliant. And again, salute to you and Leonard and everyone that worked on it. It was an amazing appeal brief. And I just wanted to quote our beloved comrade, Mark Anderson. We saw him a few weeks ago, and he mentioned that he read the appeal brief, and he said something like, wow, it was like really kicking them when they're down. He really appreciated that. And it's so true. I mean, the outcome, even though they got one conviction, the outcome of that trial was a crushing defeat for the US government. And this appeal brief is just going in for the final blow. So I'm really excited about it. And I'll close with the question I always ask you at the end of this discussion, because people are always wondering what's next. So they got a 45-day extension. So what are the next steps with this appeal process?
So they have another 45 days to file their brief. I expect that they will. They could ask for more time if they wanted to. We'll then get a chance to file a reply so we can take on any arguments that they make on in their brief. So at that point, it's considered what the court calls fully briefed. They will assign it to a panel of 3 judges, and then we'll get an oral argument date. I believe we will. Is not absolute in the 11th Circuit, but if they don't give it in this case, I don't know what case they would give it in. So I expect that we'll get a date for an oral argument, and that would be in Atlanta, Georgia.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Angela. Great to have you on as always. Salute to your amazing work on this case, and we are winning. Uhuru.
Uhuru, Jesse. Thank you.
And I think, how much time do I have left? I'm going to try to do this really quick. But yeah, I just want to appreciate Attorney Angela Rainey for that great discussion. Oh, I have 2 minutes. Okay. So I'll do this really fast. These are really quick slides, so we can just pull up the slides real quick. I just wanted to put out to everybody joining this meeting tonight that this appeal is a component of a larger political campaign that the Hands Off Uhuru anti-colonial free speech movement is embarking on, in which we want everybody in the whole movement everywhere to be a part of. Thank you to the chairman for the new title for this campaign, which is Down with FARA and Conspiracy Laws, Put the Colonial State on Trial. Uhuru, next slide. And salute the leadership of Chairman Omali Yeshitela for innovating this campaign, for leading this whole fight back, for leading the anti-colonial movement worldwide. And next slide, salute to all of the attorneys, again, who worked on the Uhuru 3 appeal. We can keep it going. So the foreign agents and conspiracy laws, the chairman has always helped us understand that in the United States and really worldwide, when we look at law, we're looking at colonial law. Colonial law created by the colonizers, by a system that itself is illegitimate. And these 2 colonial laws are explicitly political colonial laws that were created from their inception, going back to the 1930s, for the purpose of waging political attacks against whoever the US government designates as a target. Next slide. So what we're doing with this campaign is building a committee and a popular campaign to demand the repealing of the Foreign Agent Registration Act, the General Conspiracy Thought Crime Statute, and other repressive laws. And in future webinars, we'll go into more depth about the history of these laws. It's a really important history of attacks against especially African, indigenous, Palestinian, Arab, Cuban, and other colonized and oppressed peoples fighting for their liberation, who have been the targets of repression under the cover of the foreign agents laws. And same goes for the conspiracy laws. I mean, this goes back decades of history of the US government framing up and attempting to imprison, and often succeeding in imprisoning, African and other colonized peoples using these conspiracy laws. So as the chairman says, the people are everything. We have to build a people's movement against these laws. It has to be a popular demand. So we'll be waging a campaign to educate the public on how to participate in a campaign to repeal these laws through a federal legislative bill. We're going to initiate a congressional strategy where we call on people to go to your local congresspersons, senators, hold rallies, write letters, do call-in campaigns, protest outside their offices, do sit-ins if you can, to push them to introduce a bill demanding and demand a congressional hearing on these laws. We also want to go on the local level to city council meetings. You can push for your local city council to pass a resolution opposing these repressive, anti-democratic, unconstitutional colonial laws. And that's important because the Foreign Agent Registration Act is a federal law, but a state level version is coming to your state at some point soon if we don't make this pushback. They're not satisfied with just being able to charge people as foreign agents on the federal level. States throughout the United States are now forming their own state level, they call them baby FARA laws. So we're going to be holding national days of action, and we'll be putting this out in the coming weeks. recruiting into this committee, distributing a toolkit for organizers, publishing a founding statement, publicizing the campaign to go to push for legislative bills and resolutions, mobilize people to call and email their local congresspersons and senators. And so I'll close by saying the next step is for you to join this committee. Let us know in the chat if you're ready to join the campaign to say down with FARA and conspiracy laws, put the colonial state on trial. Salute to John, Caleb, Reginald, and Mia, who are already active members of that committee. You can let me know in the chat, or you can email us at info@handsoffuhuru.org. Hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa. Uhuru.
Uhuru, wow. Thank you so much, Chair Jesse, for just taking us through that last, segment in terms of, helping us to understand how to be involved and how to, be a part of this, struggle. Really excited about the launching, of the FARA campaign. And I just think it's going to be just so dynamic, especially as we talk about how it relates to, other struggles happening around the globe. And again, I just want to join you in saluting and appreciating Attorney Angela Rainey for that very dynamic and, informative update on the appeal and all of the circumstances surrounding, what is generally a normal process. As we know, in this case, we are not to expect that. So I just want to really appreciate that and just salute our legal team as well. So Uhuru, so before we move on to just another segment in today's program, I just want to give a shout out and just thank, just shout out where people are tuning in from. We have people tuning in on Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube in Atlanta, Jericho, Atlanta. Also, we have Louisville, Kentucky, Fayetteville, Arkansas, Ecuador. That's Comrade Ann, all the way out in Ecuador, who we'll be hearing about later on. Also in St. Petersburg, Florida, New York City, Boston, Massachusetts, Savannah, Georgia, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Jacksonville, Florida, Gainesville, Florida, Tampa Bay, Florida. So want to appreciate everybody who has tuned in. And I just want to give a quick update on our total amount pledged and raised so far in today's webinar. I just want to thank the following people. I want to appreciate comrades Allison for your $35 donation. Thank you, Comrade Maureen, for $50. Jesse, that's Chair Jesse, $25. Becky, $25. Johan, $50. Eliza, $10. MQ, Comrade MQ, $15. Comrade Kitty and Comrade Angela have also pledged. Kitty, $50, and Angela, $100. So in pledges. So that takes us to a total of $360 raised, with about $150 in pledges. So we have total left to raise for today, $640. And I know we can do that. And, we can continue to do that over time as well. So just want to say, go to handsoffuhuru.org/donate to make your contribution. So it is my honor now to welcome up and to introduce the leader of this struggle, Chairman Omali Yeshitela. Part of what we have been, everything that you hear us say is, rooted in a theory, which is the theory of African internationalism. This is a theory that is founded by Chairman Omali Yeshitela. It's a political theory that helps us to sum up the world, how to, understand it, but not just how to understand it, but how to change the world. And, Chairman Omali Yeshitela is a veteran in the anti-colonial struggle and the struggle for Black power. And it is a great honor to be under the leadership of the chairman in this time and to continue to see many more victories until it's won. So without further ado, I want to welcome Chairman Omali Yeshitela of the African People's Socialist Party. Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Uhuru, Chairman.
Thank you very much. I want to really express my appreciation for the introduction that you just provided for us, Comrade Chairwoman Mwezi. And also want to express appreciation to all of the leadership, Comrade Penny Hess of the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa counter-offensive work, to Comrade Angela Rainey and the magnificent lawyers that we have. It's the first time I've seen lawyers function in this fashion since the 1960s. It's a remarkable thing to see and participate with. I wanted to also express my appreciation to Comrade the Deputy Chair Onozine Yeshitela, who I think she may be somebody who is under-recognized as it relates to this case. There are people who know about the work that she does in terms of economic development and building anti-colonial economic projects that are designed to neutralize the impact and influence of the colonizer in the lives of our people. In fact, we call them part of a dual power project, as to say that even as we recognize that we live under the domination of a foreign and alien power, which is the definition of colonialism. And some people have perhaps problems understanding that because we're all living in this instance within the same state, under the same state within the territory immediately and directly controlled by the state called the United States. And so people may have some problems, some people grappling with the notion that we are still able to talk about a foreign and alien power. And it is a foreign power that came into existence as a consequence, first of all, as someone not indigenous to the land that we're on right now, to take this land, to set up the courts and the systems that they've established, to build what they characterize as the most powerful economy in the world. And at one time it was. They did this on stolen land of indigenous people, utilizing stolen labor of African people who are also not indigenous to this land, who were kidnapped and brought here at gunpoint. So I just think that should help to clarify what we talk about foreign and alien power. If we see the French in Algeria, it was easier for some people to understand that. When we see the Portuguese in Angola, in Africa, it may have been easier for people to understand that. Or even the British and Dutch in what came to be known as South Africa, it was perhaps easier for people to recognize the whole concept of foreign and alien power. But African people don't have a relationship with this power that is one that we ourselves volunteered for as a group. It was imposed on us at gunpoint. And so it's a foreign and alien power. So I wanted to say that we are engaged in a struggle against colonialism. And it is a fundamental issue. And not just colonialism, but a particular characterization, a particular form, a particular iteration of colonialism that's recognized as settler colonialism. It's a settler colonialism because it is an instance where foreigners came to this land that we're on now. And not only did they colonize it, as they had colonized in different places around the world in the past for the purpose of stealing resources and sending it back to a so-called mother country from Nigeria to England or something to that effect. In this instance, they came to this land, right, that we are, that's called the United States today. And they came as colonizers who were supposed to send resources back to England, and instead decided that they would keep the resources themselves and initiated a struggle for the ability to have this land, to fight against the mother country in order to take this land. And this is the indigenous people's land. But they initiated what they call a liberation struggle, a struggle for freedom, etc. And what it turns out to be, of course, it was a struggle for the freedom to oppress, for the freedom to oppress Africans who they had kidnapped and brought here as domestically colonized people, and the freedom to oppress the indigenous population, upon which time within this landmass, near genocide was committed. And if you look at the prison system, and if you look at the the actual state of existence of the people like the Africans and what I call the Mexicans who lost half of their land, half of Mexico stolen at gunpoint. This is a colonial setup, and you look at the prison system, you look at the state of existence of the people who we're talking about, and not just the state of existence of Mexicans who live in and within the borders of the United States. I mean, I'm talking about Texas, Arizona, Colorado, Utah, not just those, but I'm also talking about in Mexico itself. Mexico suffered and suffers today as a consequence of what happened. And if you look at Africa, Africa suffers today. When we talk about where African people in the United States and having built economic capacity here in the United States, that's an economic capacity that was denied Africa itself. So we were taken away from our capacity to create life, human life, real life for ourselves, and ended up creating life for colonizers, for foreigners and aliens that enriched them and made them extraordinarily powerful. I want to say that I think it's important for us in dealing with this discussion to contextualize it just a little bit about the political situation. Some of you may be familiar with the fact that Donald John Trump, who is the existing president of the United States, was in the United Kingdom. It was quite a ceremony, a pomp and ceremony, as you might characterize it. And Trump made a really some really important statements. And he saluted England and the relationship between England and the United States. And he talked about how the United Kingdom, as it's called, or used to be called, it's not so united today, has been responsible for spreading civilization and law and things like that throughout the world. And it is true that the England played a major role in creating the existing process of law, and that not only for here, for Africans here and in England, but also France and French colonies also were influenced by British law. And but these were colonial laws. And this mission, in fact, at one time, the best sort of historical and even poets that came out of England, they referred to this as an instance where England was taking on the white man's burden. And the white man's burden was something that it was a burden to civilize and Christianize the rest of the world. And this was something that England, did reluctantly. It wasn't something that they, quote unquote, really wanted to do, but it was their generosity that took them to these various places. And this lays out the whole philosophical position that came and went into law. In fact, the British philosophers debated this whole question of how they could talk so much about democracy and a democratic state and ruled by law, which they pulled together. How could they do that for England when they were so brutal in the colonies, the people that they dominated? And the response was that they could do it because they had this responsibility of civilizing the rest of us. And in the process of civilizing us, they could commit all kinds of horrors and offenses against us to bring us into a world of being civilized. And once we are civilized, of course, then the laws would apply to us. And even up until 1919, with the creation of the so-called of the League of Nations, that was an idea that was promoted by U.S. President Woodrow Wilson, but he was unable to carry it out because of could not get to Congress to unite with this, they put forth that they were on a mission for self-determination. But only people who were civilized could have self-determination. And it was who was going to determine whether or not we were civilized. So if you had people coming from Africa, from Asia, from various other places around the world who lived under European colonialism, and they were talking about self-determination, and they went to these institutions created by the colonizers, they had to talk about being self-determination and prove that they were civilized. And they had to prove that they were civilized to the one who had taken away their freedom and had created laws. So you had the colonizer makes the law, but colonialism itself is illegitimate. And that's the struggle we're involved in. And so I wanted to say that, and I know that there is a couple more minutes that I just wanted to say that there's this right now, there's a wild and what's characterized as populist support for the kinds of crimes being for violence in this country. And this is something that has been highlighted, punctuated by the killing of this man, Charles Kirk. But I want to share this with you. There's a journal called Foreign Affairs. It is a journal that was initiated by the Rockefellers many, many years ago, and they created something they call the Trilateral Commission. And the Trilateral Commission was called trilateral because it was the United States, it was Europe, and Asia. And these were the best thinking representatives of the ruling class that came together and put forth notions of how the world should be controlled and how things should be moved. It comes out today. You won't find it at your supermarket checkout line, but if you have a well-established and significant bookstore, you can find Foreign Affairs. And I suggest you should do that because you can see how the rulers of this country and much of the world are considering things. But I wanted to share this as something in their journal that they published in 2024. It was a November-December 2024 issue before the killing that happened with Kirk. And it was something that was called Our Own Worst Enemies. That was the title. The violent style in American politics. And it reads, I'm going to be really quick if I can. The author, Robert A. Pope, is a professor of political science and the director of the University of Chicago Project on Security and Threats. And he said, according to new research carried out by my team at the University of Chicago, tens of millions of Democrats, Republicans, and independents believe that political violence is acceptable. Many of them hail from the middle and upper class with nice homes and college education. The country's fight over its national identity has multiple dimensions. And then, so he talks about the multiple dimensions, and he said, but the most serious is demographic change. In 1990, 76% of the U.S. population identified as white. In 2023, the U.S. Census Bureau put that figure at a little over 58%. By 2035, the share is set to fall to 54%. A decade later, it would dip below 50%. And these changes have led to rising anger among conservatives, many of whom see increased ethnic so-called diversity as existential crisis to their way of life. And so these voters have embraced Trump and his nationalist movement, which promised to stop such change in its track. Trump's exclusionary policies and rhetoric have in turn prompted a ferocious backlash from liberals. And so who will embrace demographic change, or who at least fear that conservative success will cost Americans hard-won freedoms? And so this whole notion of this being a new phenomenon, of course, is nonsense. It's not new. It's something that the most elite sectors of the European ruling class has been concerned about for a while. There's something that occurs every year that's called a Munich conference. It happens in Munich, Germany. where elites from prime ministers to presidents to just a very elite peoples around the world who are, I mean, hundreds of them meet. And Zuckerberg was at the one in 2020 where this main discussion was what they characterized as westlessness. They were concerned about the movement toward westlessness. I think it's important to mention this for a number of reasons, but not the least of which is the fact that this is nothing but a sophisticated version of the "You Will Not Surprise Me" mobs who march through the streets of this country carrying torches, etc., and who have been characterized by the ruling elite as just backwards, uneducated simpletons. But the fact is, the highest level of thinking representative and powerful people of the colonial world have had this discussion, and it's been an ongoing discussion. So, so what can they do? What they can do to stop this, of course, and the problem is with the violence that we're looking at, is in fact that when the people living in these societies feel like the system does not represent them, that the law does not represent them, why get a divorce when you can get an axe and end the relationship? And this is the kind of thing that's happening more and more. People people shooting people, violence, because they've concluded that the government is so corrupt, that the system is broken, that it doesn't offer them anything. And Trump benefited from this. That's one of the reasons they elected him, because when he ran for office in 2016, that was what he was saying. The system is rigged. It doesn't work for ordinary people. And there were masses of people who wanted to hear somebody define this reality that they felt they were confronted with on a daily basis. That's why you found in 2016, the most exciting politicians running for president were Donald John Trump from the Republican side and Bernard Sanders from the Democratic Party side. Sanders claiming, of course, to be a socialist and trying to make some kind of a socialist revolution that would guarantee people Walmart wages, $15 an hour over a period of time. And it's really interesting that when Sanders lost, many of his supporters went over to Trump. The point being that people looking for solutions to what was happening in the world. The system doesn't support them. It doesn't work for them. And of course, it can't work for them because it's a system with its origin in killing people and genocide and stolen lands and whatever. And even the laws reflected that, reflect that reality. And so I just wanted to say that. And the problem, of course, that we are confronted with is that on the one hand, when we went to trial, we are dealing with the situation where our oppressor had hoisted himself on his own petard. That is to say that he talked about democracy and democratic rights and First Amendments and what have you, rights. But the fact is that the First Amendment and these laws that they have held to be so sacred to the identity of this country were not even ratified by the U.S. Congress until 1791. At that time, African people were property. It didn't apply to us then, just as it doesn't apply to us now. And the reason Africans have always been in the forefront of fighting for the right to speak is because we never had any rights. There was no presumption of Africans having rights, as there was a presumption that this was true for colonizers who are white people. And so this is what we're looking at. And we are also confronted with the fact that there are National Guards who are being put into major cities where African people live, that there are museums and things being shut down that hold up the existence of African people, that anything that reeks, that seeks to tell the story of the brutality imposed on African people by the settlers is a real problem. And so how do the settlers function to try to protect themselves from the fact that they're not making babies, that there's a growing population of Africans who are making babies when we can, and Mexicans and everybody else. Well, one thing they're doing is locking up Africans as a form of birth control. When we talk about prison and the mass incarceration, we're looking at a form of birth control that has been imposed on the African population. When you look at the borders being shut down and kicking out immigrants, you're looking at the situation where the settlers, because they are settlers, because they are not indigenous to this land, because they are foreigners, they have a situation as settlers where they cannot tolerate people who are colonized to outnumber them. And so they see this escalating process occurring, and it scares the hell out of them. And that's why they will not allow Palestinians the right to return to Palestine, because they would outnumber the white settlers who are there and call themselves Israelis. So what we have to do, and certainly what we are pushing for, and I'm self-critical and for taking up so much of your time, but I just want to say that we have concluded some time ago that we have a responsibility at this very ripe time to really push what we've always understood to be what's required of us, and that is the struggle for African independence, that we have to have the power to be self-governing, because that's what was stolen from us. So when people talk about slavery and the end of slavery, what you're looking at is the fact is that our right for self-determination was kidnapped, was stolen from us. And so that did not end with the Emancipation Proclamation. We still didn't have self-determination. When you had Jim Crow, there was no self-determination. When you had integration, there was no self-determination. Self-determination has not happened to us because it cannot be conferred on us by some other force, and certainly not the colonizers who have power over our lives. So I've talked a long time, and I appreciate the fact that you were patient with me, and unlike some others, you didn't threaten to come to my house at 5 o'clock in the morning with flashbang grenades and armored vehicles and things like that. Uhuru.
Uhuru, Chairman. Wow. I just really want to appreciate, just like you said, there's so much more that can be said and will be said, but just your summation, of the current situation of the political, period that we are faced with, and what you're also always remind us of, Chairman, is that, just the power of the people. And, none of this, this struggle was able to be successful in the way it was because, calling on the people. And when we understand, that just the position that the chairman, you chairman, and the African People's Socialist Party plays, as you said, is the vanguard, and is a shield for the people. And so this was an attack to crush, any semblance of fighting for free speech, any semblance of fighting for rights. But as you said, we never had rights, and so what else is there to talk about? And so unless you want to maintain this vile social system. And so just really want to appreciate you, Chairman, and just appreciate those who were also donating, during your presentation. Uhuru. I don't know if Chairman Penny, you wanted to add anything before we move the next. Yeah. Uhuru. All right.
Uhuru.
Yeah.
Well, I just really want to thank you, Chairman, so much. That is so powerful and really, really important. And, just summing up the period, summing up the crisis of this parasitic social system, and, bringing out the whole reality of settler colonialism, and, and just bringing that analysis, which is critical for us all to understand the world as it really is. So thank you for that powerful presentation.
Uhuru. All right, comrades. Thank you, Chairwoman Penny. And we are coming towards the last two segments of today's webinar, and I'm very excited for this next segment here. And I actually just want to just thank those who have donated. Actually, wait, I'm skipping something. I am. We're going back. We're going to the appeal. This is the time. This is the time for me to do a very quick update on everybody who has, donated and who has helped to support this fight back. From the beginning, but where we are in what we have characterized as phase 3 of the Hands Off Uhuru, legal defense. And so we're going to pull up some slides here just to give a quick update. And I want to really just give a salute to our, all the comrades who are part of the fundraising committee for the Uhuru 3 fight back. It has been, you know, a lot of important work has been done to keep this, you know, the raising of the funds, you know, above board and as transparent as possible, you know, as transparent, you know, as it has been around how this fight back has happened. And so we want to just appreciate that committee as well. So as we say, comrades, when we fight, we win. And I just want to thank everybody again who has donated so far to this program. You know, this has been such a critical part of the campaign. And again, we will be victorious as we, you know, as we fight on. So we have a goal today, as we said. Our goal is to raise $1,000 towards the Uhuru 3 appeal. And I just want to thank a couple of the donors who have contributed since we last gave a shout out. I want to thank Stephanie for your $25 donation. I want to thank Lisa for your $25 donation as well. And Linda for your $100 donation. Uhuru, Linda. And thank you, Comrade Ruby, for your $100 for your $40 donation. Thank you, Comrade Uhuru. And I just want to thank everybody who has contributed again to what we've said is our phase three goal, which we only need to bring in $25,000 more by the end of, you know, of a particular period. And again, we'll talk more about some of those. I think I have this wrong here, but that's correct. Okay. But we'll be able to break down in our future, you know, webinars around some of the, you know, mechanics around how the funds will be used. But I did want to say that with the ability or, you know, with all of the money that was raised, you know, in this past July, we had a deadline to, you know, raise about $25,000 towards the appeal. And this helped us to pay the remaining of the retainers for attorney Mutaki Akbar and to also pay for the oral arguments fees and, you know, smaller expenses like, you know, printing and other organizational costs. So again, we just want to thank everybody for your contributions. That was a really big fundraiser and an important part of this fight back, and you made that possible. And we also want to thank you know, our pro bono attorney, Leonard Goodman, you know, just for his amazing work and for bringing attorney Angela Rainey on board, you know, onto the team and just for, you know, all of these, you know, really profound contributions to this fight back. So how can you give to the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition or, you know, to this fight back? You can go to handsoffuhuru.org/donate. You can pay by card, PayPal, donor advised funds, crypto, stocks, or Venmo. You can also make checks payable to Hands Off Uhuru, and you can send your checks to Hands Off Uhuru at 2654 Gravois Avenue in St. Louis, Missouri, 63118. So if you want to make a contribution, go ahead and let us know in the in the chat how much your contribution is. And again, as we said, we want to thank you because all the retainers have been paid. We want to, you know, say that we have officially made this, you know, down payment for, I said Mutaki Akbar, but also for Attorney Griffin as well. So that was $30,000, you know, going towards some of those legal fees as well. Also, comrades, you know, it's important for us to know that together we will win. Some of this, you know, a lot of the resources, you know, has been, you know, real material funds. But again, there's nothing that replaces the power of the people. And so I just really want to salute this picture here. This was actually the photo of oral arguments in September of 2023, I believe, you know, following you know, yeah, this was our, you know, attempt to try to, you know, kick this thing out, you know, out the water. But, you know, we were able to even win even more and have an even stronger fight back. So I just want to salute those who have been with us since that period. And again, salute our legal team. So we want to say forward to victory. And I want to thank everybody who has contributed so far. So again, just to give our total, and we have some more pledges that have come in, a $40 pledge from Shakura. Thank you, Comrade Shakura. And we have a total raised today $590. That's amazing, comrades, with 410 left to meet our goal. So with that, I'm going to take us back to our program so we can introduce the new front that we mentioned earlier on in today's program. So I'm going to bring up dear comrade Paulo Kusalegui, who is joining us on today. And we're going to go through this next segment together. Were you going to say something, Chairman Penny? Or, oh no.
I can't hear what,
Significant donation just came in.
oh,
Check your text.
oh, another donation just came in.
Wow. Okay. Thank you, comrades. All right. So this one was probably what was typing in as I was moving away from the screen. I want to salute Comrade Betty Davis, who just gave $250. Uhuru, Comrade Betty. Uhuru. And those of you who don't know Comrade Betty, you should know Comrade Betty Davis, and you will get to know her more, but I just really want to appreciate that, Comrade. So that takes us to $840. Thank you, Comrade, member of the Black is Back Coalition, New Abolitionist Movement. So we have $160 left to raise. So let's go ahead and just get that done before we wrap up, because now we're going to be talking about an exciting new front of the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back. And on with me, I have my comrade, Paolo Cusalegui, who is going to be leading this section with me, and we'll be pulling up a slideshow as well. Uhuru, comrade.
Uhuru, comrade Mwezi. And
Uhuru, how
I
are
want
you
to
doing?
first, good. I want to first salute our chairman, Omali Yeshitela, for his leadership, and Chair Jesse and Chair Penny, as we've been working together for a very long time.
Yes, Uhuru. And it has been a very long time. Comrade Paulo is one of the supporters who has been with us, from, nearly the very beginning of this struggle. And this comrade has been, and I'll let you introduce yourself, Comrade Paulo, and the organization that you represent and the struggle. But just to say that part of what you have done that has been so tremendous is taking the, struggle for the Uhuru 3 out everywhere, literally everywhere that you have been. And that has been part of, why we felt it important to build this front. So before we talk more about, who we are, or, who Comrade Paulo is and his contributions to this, I also want to salute Comrade Anne Leslie, who is in Ecuador, who is also helping to, some of the, stewards of this really important committee. And these comrades have, like along with and under the leadership of the Fight Back Coalition, are helping us to build the South America front of the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition. So Comrade Paulo, if you want to just say a little bit about, yourself, and then we'll continue with our PowerPoint. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Yes, so just to be quick on that, yes, I co-founded the Los Renderos Las Redes, a Improving Collective. We are anti-imperialist, anti-colonial, and so forth. We are strong supporters of the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition, and proud supporters, as we've been staying with this since 2023, since we've gotten connected and speaking about this the issue. And since everywhere we've been going out to protest, I have been able to travel and speak about this and connect this to in the Latin American hemisphere.
Yes.
And as we're building towards that, really exciting.
Uhuru. Yes, comrade, very exciting. And just want to again salute you, Comrade Paulo, and just your, uniting with this important initiative. So next slide. Oh, actually, if we could bring the slides back up. And just to say that again, the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition, which was founded in July of 2023, is creating this other front, building under the, principles and, and the statement of unity and the demands of the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition. So this is an extension of that coalition. And one thing that we'd like to do just before, we continue in this is to read the, statement of purpose. The statement of purpose is a document that helps us to understand this committee. And I also want to say that you can read this on the Hands Off Uhuru website. I really want to salute our website team who was able to post this on today for you all to follow along. And it's also in the chat from our chat moderator. So this is the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition and opening the new Latin America front. So under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party, who has led the struggle for the past 50 years, fighting for democratic space and anti-colonial free speech, Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition is pleased to announce the launch of our Latin America Front, extending the reach of the struggle to protect and safeguard our right to anti-colonial free speech throughout this hemisphere. The newly formed Latin America Front joins other international Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa committees, including in South Africa, Sierra Leone, London, Paris, along with those throughout the United States. The Hands Off Uhuru Fightback Coalition enjoys the membership and support of hundreds of organizations and individuals from across the political spectrum who have united to build the Hands Off Uhuru principles that the right of African, Indigenous, Mexican, Palestinian, and other colonized peoples to fight for our liberation is key to the enjoyment and exercise of free speech for all people. This new front opens the space for liberation from colonialism, for the people of Latin America struggling against oppressive US-backed governments for self-determination. We salute the heroic Indigenous, African, and freedom-loving peoples of Latin America who have repeatedly led the world in the creation of equitable and just societies like in Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua, among others. African people have always stood shoulder to shoulder with the liberation struggle of the peoples of the world. In this period, when political rights are being targeted, the Hands Off Uhuru Fightback Coalition is a critical mass-based tool created to prevent the colonial government from silencing the voice of African and other oppressed and freedom-loving people in the ongoing fight for freedom, liberation, and self-determination. Chairman Amalia Yeshitela has discussed how, quote, as African people in the US, we are a part of the revolution of the Americas. We are a part of the revolutionary process that hungry, poor, oppressed, and brutalized people, the hated, despised, and the spat upon people all over the world are trying to make. That is particularly true here in what we call the Americas. The coalition is an affirmation that forces from every walk of life and political belief can find unity and purpose in the defense of the rights of African people, and the fact that when African people come under attack, everyone's rights are under threat. We recognize that African people have always been at the forefront in the struggle for civil and democratic rights in this country and throughout the world. This is a struggle that represents the main front of the against the US imperialist war and anti-colonial exploitation of the peoples of the world. The formation of the Latin America Front of the Hands Off Uhuru affirms to the world that the struggle for African people to determine their own destiny is a life-affirming quest for all of humanity, with the goal of creating a world without oppressor and oppressed, no one at the expense of anyone else. So we say, build the Latin America Front of the anti-colonial free speech movement, join the Hands Off Uhuru Fightback Coalition at handsoffuhuru.org/coalition. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. All power to the people, Black power to the African nation. Colonialism must go, and we say, venceremos. Uhuru. So again, you can read that statement and share the statement. And if you're interested in joining, please, follow the links there. But we're going to just talk quickly about some of the, we're going to be announcing the launch of this thing. So we'll just talk about some of the goals and the priorities of this committee as it stands right now. First, one of the goals was to launch the committee. And so we are inviting everybody who's on this call to join us on Saturday, October 11th, for the launch of the Hands Off Uhuru Latin America Front. There you will meet members of the committee, and we will open the door for all of the other struggles that we're going to be taking under our, under this, banner of building the anti-colonial free speech movement, expanding that as well. So we want to, be able to, another, purpose of this, struggle is to remind people that, the Uhuru 3, victory was a victory for all oppressed and colonized people. The attack was one, that helped us understand that, this attack on the Uhuru 3 was, kind of opened the door for others, but also the victory is one for us to claim. And we want to be able to take this, the, struggle of the Hands Off Uhuru, hands off Chairman Amalia Yeshitela, hands off the Uhuru 3, and, take this throughout, Latin America, but also draw the connection of this political attack on the Uhuru 3 and identify, where these, struggles for free speech are evident and, and build from there. Uhuru. Okay, that's
and I want to, yes, I want to add that it is a victory for all oppressed and colonized peoples, including in Latin America, because Chairman Amalia Yeshitela has directly contributed to the cause, to the revolutions in Latin America, especially in Nicaragua when it came to in the 1970s. with the Sandinista revolution. And so we're really proud of that, of his support back then, and the Sandinistas giving back support to the APSP. And his efforts was to undermine the CIA's meddling that was taking place in Nicaragua with the Afro-Bolivian community, Afro-Nicaraguan community. And something I've seen before when I traveled to Bolivia was the Afro-Bolivians having NGOs, the Western-backed orgs at USAID influencing it. So it's not only taking place in Central America, but all over Latin America that the US has been trying to manipulate against the socialist revolutions. So and to this slide, we're expanding the anti-colonial free speech movement, where the struggle for free speech, anti-colonial free speech and human rights is happening throughout the continent and the Caribbean as well. And for these photos, for examples, are on Peru and Bolivia. And in Peru's context, as I have family there, we are fighting for the coup de president's release. Pedro Castillo, he was imprisoned and charged with a lawfare, charged with a crime of rebellion, even though he did not incite a rebellion. But this is the U.S.-backed coup dictatorship that imposed that ousted him in 2022, and that which led to human rights violations, massacres against the poor and indigenous and campesinos in the countryside. And so these massacres amounted to about 80 dead, 80 martyrs. And so we are fighting for justice in Peru, and as well as for Pedro Castillo's release, of which he has been sentenced. He will be about to be sentenced for 35 years by corrupt judges. And so there won't be any political challenge for the upcoming election in April 2026. And so he has already been imprisoned for 1,016 days already. This is this is a pretrial detention. It's not even his actual detention right now. And so this is a very desperate situation that we're fighting for in Peru, because the political crisis over there is amounting into a worse situation for our people, as the colonial system is exploiting and oppressing people, but also stealing the resources, the natural resources, of which the U.S. really wants the lithium, the gold, the copper, the oil, all over, as we're going to see on the next slide. So regarding to the FARA and conspiracy laws that are attacking, it is an attack on the struggle and right to self-determination and power in Latin America. And Venezuela is a key example to this. And we here in the United States, we're fighting for the migrants here, not only Venezuelans, but Salvadorians, Nicaraguans, Cubans, Peruvians, Bolivians, so many more. And not only Latin America, but everybody, and Filipinos, and Africans, who are all facing that same oppression by this state terrorism, essentially, that Donald Trump is waging against all migrants. And this is all connected because the U.S. deported 8 people in the first instance to South Sudan, I believe it was, and 2 of them were Cubans with no relations to the land. For the U.S., they want to keep expanding their penal colonies, not only in El Salvador, not only in Guantanamo Bay, but they want to try to expand it in Peru too, as they're trying to seek allyship with far-right governments. And so Venezuela is, we're defending Venezuela at this critical moment because of the global terrorism that the U.S. is waging right now. They have already killed 14 innocent people, and just brazenly just alleging that they're narco traffickers, that the president Nicolas Maduro is a narco terrorist, but who is committing the terrorism and who's doing the drug trafficking? We just saw yesterday that the Venezuelan government has announced that they captured a boat from Colombia and with 4 people on it carrying 3 tons of cocaine. This is the transportation of cocaine from Peru and Colombia to Ecuador, to Venezuela, to Brazil, and so forth. But the drug trade is happening on in the Pacific side of the continent, not to Venezuela, but they want to pin it on Venezuela because what they really want is the oil, and to overthrow the government and to create a failed state in a similar process to how Haiti is going right now. And so Venezuela is defending its sovereignty. When they captured that boat with 3 tons of cocaine with the Venezuelan authorities, they found 4 people, one of them allegedly a DEA agent. So it's historically known that the Drugs and Enforcement Agency that has influence in South America still to this day, they have drug trafficked throughout that region, especially in Bolivia. And so it is very much critical how we need to defend Venezuela at this moment. And next slide.
Uhuru.
Mhm.
Thank you.
And one more thing. At this critical moment, we just saw with Mahmoud Khalil's case, and he's a migrant as well, Algerian and Palestinian, and the immigration judge, ordered his deportation now. This just happened yesterday, I believe, and it was he's to be deported to either Syria or Algeria, as if this was a benevolent decision. A very corrupt system we have here, and the Uhuru movement is exposing this, how vicious it is to our people. Not only seeing the military occupation here with ICE, with the National Guard and Marines, but over abroad.
Uhuru. Uhuru, comrade. And I think we have one more slide with some photos, right? Oh no, this is the last one here. I appreciate you, Comrade Paulo, because you're just kind of giving us a glimpse into how much there is for us to unpack and to expose, really about what's happening, south of the quote unquote colonial border and in the southern, as they, describe it, hemisphere. And I think that, one thing that's going to be helpful for everybody is to join this committee, because a lot of the, we're going to need translators, and also, there's a lot of different opportunities for us to explore how we can build this committee. But one thing that I appreciate Comrade Paulo putting forth is all the various ways that we have to continue to, show unity with the struggles that are happening around the world, because African people have always, stood in unity with the anti-colonial struggle, the struggle for free speech and rights around the world, because just because of the nature of our relationship to this colonial system as well. And so some of those goals, like we said, we want to be able to tie what's happening to the Uhuru 3, and these FAR laws and these these conspiracy laws to have an impact in how the people fight back all throughout the world. And so, yes, Comrade Lisa says, yes, we must stand with the oppressed people around the world, and indeed, and do it fearlessly, and just as you did, Comrade, Vice Chair as well. So thank you so much, Comrade Paula. And we want to call on you to join this committee. Come to the launch in October, on October 11th, where you'll be hearing a lot more, details around this, fight back. And so thank you, Comrade Paulo. Really appreciate you so much. Uhuru. Comrades, I want to just give a quick update on our appeal amount, and then we're going to move to announcements and closing for today's webinar. Since we gave our appeal, we've had some more donations come in. So I really want to salute Youssef for your $25 donation. I want to appreciate Jamie and Sarah, our comrades, for $20 donation. Thank you so much. Comrade MQ, once again with the $10 donation. Jesse Neville coming in again with the $10 donation. An anonymous donation of $118, right on. Thank you so much. That was probably to help balance out some things there. So thank you for that, anonymous. Comrade Raya, for your $10 donation. Penny Hess, Thank you, Comrade. $50. Also, a $10 pledge from Comrade Indigo. Thank you so much, Indigo. Comrade Amanda, $10. Thank you, Comrade. And Brian, a $40 donation. And also, I wanted to appreciate Jeff, who has been very active in the chat and very engaged in today's webinar, who was trying to make a donation, but it wasn't going through. But Jeff wanted to let us know that that they are making a donation as well. So thank you so much, Jeff. And I think there's some more that I'm missing. Oh, and $10. So our new total that we have raised, was it $10, Jeff? Thank you so much. That's what you're looking to give, or maybe that's not. Sorry, and it's $10. Jeff is trying to make a donation. So thank you, Jeff. So that takes us to a total now of that we have raised for today, $1,153. So we have surpassed our goal. Uhuru, thank you so much, everybody. That's just really powerful. I know in these times, especially, it is not easy to come across, the little bit that we do have, but this is the fight, and we just really want to salute you all. Yes, thank you, Comrade MQ in the chat. Un pueblo unido llamas van vencido. I said that so wrong, but I'm not going to even try it again. I'm not going to take us through that. But venceremos, I can say that. Thank you, Comrade. And we have here in the chat saying thank you for all your contributions. Hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa. Uhuru, comrades. So I'm just going to take us through our last closing announcements for today. If there's nothing else to be said by our panelists. Great. All right. So, comrades, I just really want to salute today's powerful presentation and to say that we are going into our announcements. Yeah, Uhuru. So this weekend, so in literally one day on the ground in St. Louis, Missouri, you can participate in the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, also known as IMPEDUM, their 2025 annual convention titled Cheers to a Dying Colonialism, This Time Till It's Won. This is going to be both virtual but in-person participation in St. Louis at Aquaba Hall. And this theme reflects the revolutionary optimism that we feel now. We want to encourage everybody to go to impedum.org to register, or if you can go directly to the registration page on Eventbrite at impedum25.eventbrite.com. So there will be workshops, culture, presentations, and elections. So you get to see some of that process as well. And, just really want to encourage you all to come to the Impedum Convention in St. Louis or join us online. So Uhuru. We also want to once again remind you of the launch of the Hands Off Uhuru Latin America Front, Saturday, October 11th. You will find more information by going to handsoffuhuru.org/Latin America. And some of that information will be updated as we get closer to the date. Also, the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations 17th Annual Black People's March on the White House in Washington, D.C. will be held on Saturday, November 1st, beginning at 11 a.m. at Malcolm X Park in Washington, D.C., and followed by a conference on Sunday, November 2nd. This will be a hybrid event, speaking of the conference on the Sunday. And you can get more information by going to blackisbackcoalition.org. But if you plan to be there, put in the chat right now that you will march on the White House, so that we can know to expect you there as well. So I really want to salute that march, and we want to see everybody there on the ground. Hands Off Uhuru will also be there with our banner and our contingent. So we're going to skip that next slide and go straight to the follow us flight. Great. So we're going to ask everybody to follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok. Also find us on YouTube as well on the Burning Spear TV by searching Hands Off Uhuru or using the hashtag Hands Off Uhuru when speaking around free speech. We want to, now more than ever, it's time to continue to wear your politics on your, to wear your politics. One of the new shirts that is very timely and very, relevant, Kick the Ass of the Ruling Class. Go on and get that shirt right now. You can go to handsoffuhuru.org/shop or one of the institutions of the African People's Socialist Party, the Uhuru Movement, Uhuru Planet, uhuruplanet.com. Another way to support the work of the African People's Socialist Party is to support the Burning Spear newspaper. This is the oldest institution of the organization, and this is the reason why they attacked us, because of what we say. and because of what we do. And so you can learn more about the work of the organization by going to the Burning Spear .store, or you can also become a subscriber and go to theburningspear.com/subscribe and get your subscription today and get it right in time for the October issue, which is going to be very dynamic. So for all future events, go to handsoffruhuru.org/events. We want to appreciate everybody who made it on today's webinar. And with that, I just want to say, comrades, we are winning. I want to say hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa, hands off Chairman Amalia Yeshitela and the Uhuru 3, and let's continue to build the anti-colonial free speech movement, this time till it's won. So Uhuru, comrades.
Uhuru.
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 Uhuru!
Uhuru, comrades.
Uhuru, Lisa Davis.